guys, welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. So as you guys already know, it's going to be about breastfeeding and, you know, little tips and tricks for that. So right now I am breastfeeding. I know you guys can't really see, but this is the position that he's in. This works better for us now that he's bigger and doesn't really like the football hold. And typically I don't have a pillow because we're like sitting down and he's big enough to just sit on my lap. But because I'm sitting in this type of chair and I'm not really leaned over, it's easier to just have him lay like across me. When he was smaller, I believe that for smaller babies, if you have a larger bust, it's easier to do the football hold, which I would have my baby propped up on my arm. He was that small, and support his head and neck with my hand. And once he finished nursing, I'll show you guys that, and then have him pressed against my body and use my other hand to lift my breast and to put the nipple where it needs to be. So those are the two positions that I've done with him. Sometimes I lay down and I'll lay him on top of me, but it'll still be the crossbody position. He'll just be in more upright position. Like, I have a larger breast, so now that he's old enough, he knows how to position his own head. But a lot of times when he was younger, I would have to take my hand, let me see if I can adjust to show you guys. I would have to take my hand and press back on the skin so that it wasn't blocking his nose. Even though babies are smart, they'll pull back. It's easier just to go ahead and move out of their way so that you don't have to keep getting them latched back on. When you're breastfeeding, I recommend for babies that are smaller to kind of pinch your nipple, because it's easier for them to get the smaller the nipple is, the easier it is for them to latch on. But for most moms with bigger boobs, naturally your nipple is a little bigger, especially while you're pregnant, after you have the baby, while you're nursing, your nipples are bigger than what they would normally be. I don't really know what that's all about, but it's a thing. Trust me, your nipples will change. But yes, the football hold is usually like this, and as you guys can see, I support his head on both sides, and that way you're able to not only support his head but guide it onto the nipples, see, without bothering him. He's too big for this now, so we don't do this position, and he don't like it anyway. That position worked for us when he was a newborn. He was born, what, 4 or 5 weeks early, allegedly. But oh my goodness, can you give me something to wipe him? Thank you. Well, this is a part of it too, so always make sure you have a burp rag, because as you can see, they just spit it out. Those are the two positions that I recommend. I believe they're the easiest. I know it's quite a few things that people do, but those are what work for me, the crossbody as well as the football. The football used to work, but it doesn't now that he's older. And usually with my milk supply, I produce way more milk than what it is that he eats. Like, he only nursed for maybe 5 minutes, if even that, and I guess the letdown was quick because he got the milk quick and clearly ate too much. He ate too much? Yeah, clearly he ate too much because he spit up as soon as he burped, and then again. But that leads me to my next point. After a baby feeds, try to keep them sitting up for at least 30 minutes. It'll help with not only the gas, but it'll also help with them spitting up and things like that. When a baby's laying down, one, if they've just eaten, think about yourself. If you just eat and then you lay down, a lot of times you have acid reflux, you have a lot of heartburn, you have a lot of things that go on because your food hasn't had the time that it needs to digest. So if you keep him upright, or her, whatever you have, it helps at least for 30 minutes. And if you choose to bottle feed, rather it be with formula or breast milk, it's a good idea to burp them after every ounce when they're little. Like right now, he doesn't need to be burped after every ounce. You don't want it? But when he was younger, it helped because he was still learning his body and how to manage gas and burping and stuff like that. Now a lot of times he'll burp on his own, but we still try to burp him anyway to prevent that discomfort and the fussiness and whining and things like that. So when it comes to breastfeeding and pumping, as you guys already know from my previous videos, I always recommend massaging your breasts first. And I'll show you guys what I mean, because I believe that me not knowing how to massage my breast was what caused me to have mastitis, one of the factors of me having mastitis. So you have ducts, oh, I should probably stay back. So you have ducts some everywhere, like all under here, even up here, all around here, even into here and down here. Once you start getting familiar with your breast, like I say in pretty much all my breastfeeding videos, you'll be able to feel a difference. Like there's soft spots in your breast, but then when the milk starts to fill up, you'll feel like, mine usually fills up here first. So it'll feel like a knot and it'll be hard. Those are the areas especially that I try to make sure that I do like this circular motion. And also while I'm pumping, like I said, I like to use the manual hand pump. So while I'm pumping, I have it latched on. You guys can see, I just nervous so you can see my nipple, but I will put the, I forgot what it's called, but basically the part of the pump where your breast goes in. And as I'm pumping, I am pushing down on these areas. Not only does that ensure that I empty my breast completely, but it speeds up the process of getting the milk out. So if you pay attention to your pump, or if you have, for the most part, I've seen all of the little breast parts of the pump are clear or see-through, whatever you want to call it. And if you pay attention to it, my breast, at least when I do it, instead of it coming out in like drip drops, it's like multiple streams of milk when I press down on it. So that speeds up the process. And like I said, I believe that's part of the way to prevent mastitis. If you have issues with maybe like a clogged milk duct, then I recommend using a warm compress and just putting it wherever. Like mine, I end up getting like an infection right here, so I took a warm compress, and they do sell them. I think mine was Lanasol, I think that's how you say it, but it was gifted to me, and it was like little breast pads or whatever. It was like little jellies, and then it came with a sleeve so that you didn't put either cold or hot compress directly on your skin. It had a little sleeve on it. Let's see. Oh, that also helps while breastfeeding, because if you massage your breast first before you breastfeed or before you put the baby on, the milk will already be in the letdown process or be about to start the letdown process. Before you get to the point of your milk coming down, I recommend making sure that you either have an extra hand free, like both of your hands aren't tied up, or you have your breast pad on, because I don't know if it's everybody, but when I'm nursing or pumping, I've noticed that even though I may have my son on this side or be pumping this side, the milk automatically starts coming out of this side. Like there has been times that I'm trying to figure out why my son is squirming, and then I look down and he's having a milk bath. It's been times that my clothes have been completely soaked just because I didn't know that, you know, the milk comes down out the other side also. So it's best to just have it on standby. Have your breast pads on. They're really cheap. You can get a big box, and I don't really use much of mine because I'm typically home, but they're really cheap. You can use those, or once you feel your breast, or even if you don't feel it, because sometimes it doesn't do that little tingly thing, still put your finger at least on your nipple to stop the milk from coming out, and then try to pump. Or another thing that I do is I'll be nursing him on one side and be actively pumping the other. And then once he finished nursing on that opposite side, I'll pump whatever is left at that point. And when it comes down to trying to hand express milk, that's a big part of it too. If you go ahead and massage your breasts all up in here, all over here, make sure you get, a lot of people don't know, I know I didn't for sure, that you have milk ducts even under your arm, all kind of stuff. So you need to make sure that you massage the entire thing. Make sure that you get really acquainted with yourself. Feel around for those milk ducts. Feel around for any lumps, bumps that don't feel, you know, like they should be there, basically. And when you start to express, you're going to, I wish I had something to show you guys, but I go from here and basically work everything downward. And instead of squeezing like the tip of my nipple when I was expressing the milk, I would squeeze the areola portion. When you squeeze the areola portion, to me, you're actually milking yourself. Like if you think about how they milk a cow, they don't just go from the tip of the udder or whatever and squeeze there. They work it down and then it's coming out that way. So that's what I recommend for the expression of your milk. As far as milk storage, I believe that how it was explained to me after I had my son was the rule of fives. So you can have it out at room temperature for 5 hours. You can have it in the refrigerator for 5 days, and you can have it in the freezer for 5 months. But if you use a deep freezer, you can keep it for longer, up to a year. So what I do is I store my milk basically in fives, because that's typically how my son eats. And even when he didn't, he would eat enough within that time to where that's how much milk he would go through. So once I pump, depending on when I pump and how much milk comes out, I will put 5 ounces in the refrigerator for overnight when my husband has the baby. Throughout the day, I'll pump, and however much milk I make, like I said, I set aside the 5 ounces, and then whatever is extra, I use a variety of freezer bags. I'm not really too particular on the freezer bags, but I'll mark it with the date, the time, and also how much milk I put in it. For the most part, I always store 5 ounces. I don't ever store less than 5 because I think that's a waste of a freezer bag. But 5 ounces and more is what I store. And like I said, date, time, all of that. And instead of standing the bag straight up, I make sure that the air is out, and then I lay the bag flat. So this is my freezer. I lay the bag this way after making sure that it's completely closed. And that way, when I put it inside of my freezer, my big freezer bags, like my gallon bags to store milk and to move it to a deep freezer or whatever, or keep it in my freezer, whichever works, I have way more space, because when you do it standing straight up, the width of it is a lot larger than it being flat. But in conclusion, breastfeeding is an amazing thing. However, even with all of its perks and pros, there are a few cons, which they aren't really cons because they can be prevented. But just make sure that, like, you know your body and pay attention to your body, and also pay attention to your baby, because your baby is going to respond and let you know in their own way what they like, what they don't like, what position is best for them. You'll also notice, like, if you do need to burp your baby more, you'll notice it, because maybe when you go to lay them down, they'll be squirming or a little fussy, or when you go to pick them back up, they'll burp or pass gas. And so just make sure that you pay attention, because your baby's gonna, clearly they can't speak, but they'll be able to communicate to you that either they like or dislike something, or this works or this does not work for them. And when it comes down to knowing your body, get familiar with yourself, because you'll know, oh, this hurts, maybe the baby isn't latched on properly, or maybe my nipple has started to come out of the baby's mouth, or maybe I need to break the latch, or whatever the case is, as well as trying to prevent mastitis. Mastitis is not fun, so that's why it's important to get very familiar with your body, so that you know what little lumps and bumps have become normal since you have started your breastfeeding journey. You'll also be able to tell, like, hey, my breast isn't all the way empty. You'll know the difference in how your body feels when you're full, or when you have some milk left over versus being completely empty. And yeah, that's pretty much all that I have for you guys today. Like I always say, when it comes down to these mother and baby videos, do what works for you. If you want to pump and bottle feed. If you want to just do formula, do formula. If you want to strictly breastfeed, then do it. Don't let anyone tell you anything about it. I'm very good for if my son is hungry, I'm pulling out a boob wherever, I don't care. Like, as always though, do what works for you, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise.